Yeah.
Call the Account and Finance Committee meeting for December 14th to order. Mr. Moncur is running a little bit late, so we're going to change the order around. We have a couple of other items of business. One of them is Leo's, and one of them I think the town manager has. If you want, you have the floor.
Both of these items apply to the chief, and we can move him on when we wait Mr. Moncur. As Jennifer's been doing a meals tax audit, Chief and I went and did a cigarette tax audit. And it does have the name of the store, so if we can look at those, and you can get this one.
If you don't mind, I don't think I need to warn you, Mr. Nash, but when we get Mr. Moncur here, abundance of caution was my term last month.
There were a few stores that were selling cigarettes without stamps. I think there's an explanation. The chief did a good job kind of narrating exactly what was going down. A couple of these smaller stores, I think they had cigarettes still on the shelf from the last time we did the audit.
Right.
There's some old timers in there, yeah. And if you look on the cigarette stamps, and I learned this yesterday, cigarette stamps also have the town's zip code on them. And there were some cigarettes that had Blacksburg, Virginia's zip code, so I think that there was a logical explanation for that. But that isn't a recent audit. By far, the majority of merchants were, and the majority of cigarettes that we checked were good. And but there were a few that did not have the appropriate.
So if I'm looking at this spreadsheet here, the ones in yellow you got indigestion about, and you're gonna
We're gonna go
reinvestigate.
back on Friday. Some of those guys want to purchase the stamps, but I've got to figure out a way to sell 12 stamps or 15 stamps. They usually come in rolls of several hundred.
Yeah, it's like 500.
And I'm not really sure how to sell a dozen stamps.
Are they able to buy a dozen stamps from another vendor?
I don't know. I've got to find out. And I told them I would get back to them on Friday. But it's kind of atypical to sell 10 or 12 stamps. Like I said, they usually buy a roll at a time. But maybe there is a vendor. But
You
they
said the
can't.
one that had Blacksburg on it. I mean, have we gotten, even though it was 12, it says Blacksburg and not Blackstone, did we get our money for it? Isn't it 25 cents a bag?
Blacksburg sold his stickers to those merchants. But they got delivered here and were on the shelf here in Blackstone. No, we didn't get paid for them.
No problem.
The town of Blackstone got paid, or Blacksburg got paid.
Blacksburg got paid.
Blacksburg got paid.
All right, will you give Mr. Moncur a copy of the,
Just to let you know.
does he have a copy?
He does.
He does. All right.
Mr. Moncur, we're not gonna speak of the names of businesses or individuals, please.
We did a cigarette audit yesterday and went door to door with merchants that, retailers that sell cigarettes. And the vast majority of cigarettes were found to be compliant. There were a dozen here, 10 here, a carton there that either had a wrong municipal stamp or no municipal stamp at all. And two of the merchants had asked if I could come back and tell them how to purchase very small amount of stamps so they could stamp them. I don't know the answer to that, and to tell you the truth, probably need to speak to a treasurer from a community that sells the stamps and see how they can do that.
Is there a way we can keep a roll
Usually
in the treasurer department?
when we sell a roll, we sell them for X number of dollars. We just schemed 25 of them off, and then it's problematic. So I just got to figure out how to do that. And I owe them the courtesy of a response on how to do it. All right. Everybody was cooperative. Nobody had a problem. Nobody fussed or had any
But
dissatisfaction.
you'll do it sooner rather than later because it's not fair for those that have purchased the stamps.
I told them tomorrow.
Okay.
I think that says on Friday.
But I'm not seeing anything here, besides maybe minor negligence. I don't see anything criminal.
No, I think there's an explanation for it all, and I can't say an explanation. There's multiple. I think there were some out there that were probably there the last time they did the audit and ended up back out there. Kind of off brands that aren't very popular. No, at this point, I don't think there's any need to. We may need to do a full follow-up, Chief and I, and especially the ones we had an issue with this time. Okay. Second item while the chief is here, we've received back the cost study for enhanced benefits for law enforcement positions. I think we all call this LEOs. The last time we did this, I believe in 2012, the cost of the town was going to be about $45,000. We have budgeted $45,000, and estimated valuation results with the lower of the two options. 1.7% Leo benefits for hazardous duty employees, $69,503. And please don't ask me exactly how this actuarial is established or done.
So
It's
it's
done through our retirement.
nearly double.
45 to 69. 45 was the estimated, and that was the cost in 2012. I'm sure there was some inflation between that period, but I don't know why exactly it increased so much.
Is this a
You need to
single,
speak to the guys.
is this a single source? You know, I mean, is this something you put out for bid, or is this just, you know, this Kavanaugh McDonald, that's just,
No, we didn't hire Caroline McDonald, we did
Okay.
the retirement system.
okay, so VRS is setting the price point, is what I'm trying to find out. Is that correct?
I can't say they're setting the price point, but the consultants work through the Virginia retirement system.
Okay, so you've given us an option of 1.7 or 1.85. Is there an option lower or higher?
I don't know. Chief, do you know?
No, so 1.70 is the lowest amount we could do.
Yes, sir.
So that's the liability that we're staring at the face at a minimum.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we've budgeted 45,069. So you've accrued so far in this budget that we haven't spent?
We haven't spent any of the 45 that's been budgeted.
That's been budgeted.
And so their Leo's number is a year total, so
In the calendar year or fiscal year?
calendar, it's 12 months.
So we would start in January if we.
They're proposing January 1 start.
And the budget would take care of it this year. But that's gonna be,
6 months, yeah.
right, that's
You'd have to
just,
increase it in July.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
so in our next budget, it's gonna be a significant increase. And when do you need an answer on this?
Monday night. This is gonna be a January 1 commence date.
Right. Because I need to adjust payroll stuff.
So we need to find $40,000 extra.
No,
Mm,
25. 45 and 25 is about 70,000.
I know you're going to kill me, Chief, but is there any room in your budget for that without us adding money to it?
No, Phil and I talked
Yeah, I
about
don't
it.
think it's 25 lying around.
Okay.
I think when the budget comes, we may have to take something out or move something in the following year's budget or a car or whatever had been proposed, but you're gonna need about 25 more in order to do this. And I really thought it'd be pretty close to the 45. I didn't know why there would be a big increase, nor was one indicated, but she went on.
I think for 20,000 additional, I mean, I think there's ways to find it in the budget. I mean, if it's a good recruitment tool, I mean, as it's been.
I understand that, but,
Move on it.
well,
That's a priority. It may cost something else. It may cost a raise. It may cost whatever.
I mean, in worst case scenario, Chief, it could be that the other town employees get a percentage raise and maybe the police department wouldn't get that much. I'm not advocating that. And I'd rather try to find the money, but I don't have any intention of raising
I think
rates this year.
I think the council talked about making DVI into a 50-40 split. Still think you've got some work to do in there, in the proper fund, that could be a portion of it. Is there a way to do it? Yeah, there's a way to do it. But we just gotta look at priorities, and it may not be a sewer line, it may not be a new pickup truck, it may be something different, or a police car, we just gotta figure it out. It's an ongoing expense, so
It's not a one-time.
eliminating capital one-time projects probably is just an ongoing headache. I think you need to find $25,000 savings in ongoing expenses.
Mr. Moncur, what's your thoughts?
I haven't digested what you just said.
Well, take some roll age, because we got a meeting Monday night, we gotta make a presentation.
We can do this after the fact if you'd like and move on with the others and then discuss it more in length if you'd like.
Well, let's reconvene here Monday at 3:30. Does that suit you, Mr. Nash?
It's fine.
We'll take that up at Monday at 3:30. We'll make that call, Jennifer, put that call out. All right.
Go back to the agenda.
Let me make sure. Yeah, 3:30 works good for me. Is that good for you? Good for you? Okay. Yes, sir, you can go right on with the agenda now.
There's 2 items for consideration today. I think Jennifer put a spreadsheet together. The easy part is the CD comparison. But I want everybody to understand, for us to put money in the CD, we've got to make sure we are not principal penalized in any form or fashion. And everybody, or the person who is the apparent highest proposal has to commit to that. Okay? You have to have a commitment that the principal cannot be penalized or jeopardized in any form or fashion. Okay? Why would we need to take it out? We would not need to take it out except for an event of calamity. A snowstorm, ice storm, hurricane, something like that. I don't think the citizens are gonna be crazy with us waiting on an insurance claim to be approved when they don't have power. We gotta go get poles, we gotta get wire, we gotta do whatever we gotta do, transformers to get stuff going, and that would be the purpose of using this money. Other than that, I would not anticipate using it anymore. You can see the CD comparison, 12, 24, and 36 is undetermined. How long the council would like to set it aside. What set all this in motion was we received correspondence from VML VACO, which is VIP, is very similar to the local government investment pool, LGIPs that are out there, and there are ways to increase your return. We shared that with the council before, we shared that with some of the banks. VIP, and I don't know the actual detail, Joe has done some research, he said, and but the equivalent of the local government investment pool has a rate of 1.64. Maybe string attached, I don't know the details. And I didn't investigate VIP very thoroughly because I think we'd like to keep it local. That was the intention. Okay? The intention is to keep the money as closely to Southside Virginia as possible. We've had some differences of opinion on council, whether we seek bids out of town, do we not seek bids out of town. We initially got proposals from inside town. BB&T, CB&T, and Benchmark each gave us proposals. And then we expanded that search after the last council meeting. A motion was made by council to not just limit rates and things to outside of town. There was a motion to that effect, but we have 5 responses, not including any of the local government investment options that are available at the state or through VML, and a 12-month return. Looks like 3 of them are the same. 24-month return, you can see, 165 at benchmark, and 36-month return, 1.95. Apparently it's the highest, and that ranges from 1.3 to 1.95. Is that correct?
They did offer one.
Also, an 18-month offer. Yeah.
That was the only 18-month offer.
And it had no fees for one withdrawal, if I'm not mistaken. Any questions? This is $2 million is what we sought pricing for. That's sitting currently, and it is undesignated for any purpose other than calamity that falls to town. As you know, our finance plan actually calls for $3.7 million to be put into reserve. Cover 15% of the town's general fund. For the electric fund, we anticipate, based on the American Public Power Association's recommendation, a 4-month operating fund, or the equivalent of 4 months expenditures during the course of a year. And then the electric fund, we use the same APPA 4-month estimate, and that was about $800,000. However, Roland Cooch, if you remember when we were doing one of those, the last borrowing that we did for the Waypoint plant upgrade, recommended that we go to a higher figure. 3.7 will be the total of it. So this is just over half of the town's recommended reserve fund.
In essence, one day, fully reserved, you'd have $4.5 million with all your other accounts sitting in the money market.
Yeah, I looked at this today. It says in the bank today we've got $4.3 million in a series of accounts. Plus we have we had a CD mature the first week of December, and BB&T was the higher, and we had to move it that right then. Or we could have put it in the account and done something else, but we took it in a snapshot. BB&T would only commit to a day. And so they were 1.15, and that's a perpetual care fund, about 224, 226.
So it could be as much as $5 million one day. Okay. So.
And we have a line of credit with Benchmark, $400,000 and then we borrowed $2+ million for that wastewater project, and that's sitting at benchmark as well.
So, to me, that's pretty cut and dry. I think the problem is that there hasn't been an abundance of clarity between the two. So we need to be equitable to all our bankers and either rebid this or make some sort of alteration to it or something.
What was unfair?
Well, I don't think on the loan portion, I don't think we spelled it out quite clearly. I don't think we spelled it out quite clearly about balloons and just, I mean, we just put out a vague request.
Yeah, that wasn't the case. I met with Joe and Bill on multiple occasions on that, and worked out, asked them, as a relationship banker, to give us their best proposal. And if the situation is a complaint that it hadn't been clear enough, it apparently didn't cause the other banks any issue.
Okay.
I disagree with your assessment on that.
All right, well, the banks are here, and I think they want to speak. Would you come to the podium, Mr. Borgadine?
I just wanted to ask a question, if that's okay. And I just for clarification, as far as the CD rates, are those no penalty CD rates, Philip, or are they?
No penalty on principal.
And so any of those rates that you
Whoever
receive,
is
do the
the-
bankers here all, so those are no penalty rates from?
I quoted in mine, 3-month penalty.
Joe, as we just discussed, that person who has the highest rate would have to certify that the penalties would not apply to any of the principal. Interest, yes, but not the principal. And if they can't make that commitment, nobody gives them that.
Well, because it was our understanding, we did a no penalty CD, which was the point of the CD, but every other CD after that would have a penalty, and that, for that term. And so I just want to be sure that we understand what we're quoting when we do that. But, and if the other banks understood that as well, so that was.
Same information was given them.
Do you think it'd be beneficial to, and I believe we discussed this, Philip, if we just went out and said, all right, we want to do something this month. If we went out and said, all right, we want a 12-month, 24-month, 36-month CD rate. We want it by Monday at noon, and needs to be.
Here's what I recommend. Okay. I recommend by 12 o'clock on Monday, just as we just discussed, have everybody put their proposal in, have it on camera. This is what we're asking for, 12, 24, and 36, no principal penalty. Okay?
We need to make that clear.
By 12 o'clock, we're making it clear right now, 12 o'clock on Monday, and just not do the borrowing. To drop the borrowing altogether, because it doesn't make sense when we get almost $5 million sitting in the bank that we're going to have to borrow money.
Mhm.
And causing quite a consternation in the banking community. Just don't borrow any money, just do it ourselves, lend ourselves money. And just do it wisely, handle the people's money even better. Going to the bank makes more sense to me at times because it takes cash management issues out of the picture.
Yeah.
Makes it easier to move, but I would certainly say, the average citizen in Blackstone would say it'd make more sense to pay ourselves back 1% of interest or 2%.
I want to be able to look at this chart and say, I know what the penalties are if we withdraw it in 6 months, a year, whatever. I want them to be even across the board, just so we'll know how to compare them.
That's my recommendation, is just not do this alone, and just borrow it from ourselves, and then put $1.5 million in a CD by Monday, 12 o'clock, email it to us, have it in here, and then just deal that way. But leaving it in the money market, it makes no sense at 0.3%.
No, I agree.
Just absurd. So we gotta put it in some sort of a protected, and even though 1.5% 20 years ago would have made no sense either, but that's the best that's out there, and just do it that way. But just leave the lending off. We'll figure that, just like we always do. Just drop the whole thing.
All right, when you put this out for bid, if you're changing the dollar amount. You're changing the dollar amount from $2 million to $1 million.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why we're waiting until
So-
Monday, otherwise we can take that.
So Do we need to email all these bankers with something?
Put it in writing.
Yeah. I just don't, I don't want any, I don't want anybody to be uneasy, but, well, I thought this was gonna be this way, and I thought it was gonna be that way. I mean, it's no secret that it's, Mr. Moncur and I met with Mr. Borgadine, and he wasn't, and there was some lack of clarity of, the whole package.
I'm not sure how they can be if I've sat in Bill's office on multiple occasions. I met with him with you and Mr. Moncur the other day. Now, if Joe had an issue, great, no problem if we have an issue, but there wasn't an issue until the.
Well, now's your time. If you have an issue, you wanna come to the podium.
Mr. Green,
How you doing, Bill?
thank you for being Citizens Bank's customer. We've appreciated the town for a long time, and we've done everything we can to help. The original request was a short-term, we gotta get this done, let's get started. And then it changed, and then it changed again. And that's kind of where we got uncomfortable, because we were chasing something. And so in the future, we'd like a formal, RFP of, this is what we'd like. And that lets us do our job and do respond quickly and make sure we're giving you what you want. So that's our main request. But Citizens Bank and Trust have been here, a long time. I think the town's been our customer for 100 years. So we'd just like to thank you again for your business, and we'll respond to whatever requests you guys.
Well, I think you and I can sit here and have a love fest for 30 minutes about our symbiotic relationship. And I speak for the Finance Committee, not for the council. But we know we've come to you in time of needs, and you've been there. We also know that, we've done a tremendous amount of business with you. You've got $4 million of the taxpayers' money in there at 30 basis points. So, I mean, it's been a symbiotic relationship.
Okay.
The thing that I've got indigestion about is, if we haven't put this out in a formal enough fashion that it's equitable to everyone here, then let's do so. Let's do so and spell out not what they want, but what we want. If we want, we need to decide today while we've got the time. If we want one mulligan, fine. Interest only is, the principal can't be degraded. We need to spell all that out. Otherwise, we've got bids in front of us for $2 million, and we just award the thing to Benchmark and be done with it. But since there's so many different caveats here, and I understand the point Mr. Borgadine made that he was willing to, to give us a loan at a certain rate because we had some deposits. So I think we need to be above board, and we need to send him an email today. I'm not so sure that we need to rush and have for the Monday council meeting on the. I mean, how much? We're not talking about that much money.
I don't think the lending is necessary.
No.
I think you need to get that money dealt with this.
Okay.
Manure.
Well, gentlemen, is Monday at 2 o'clock? Is that enough time? If we email you today, what proposal we're looking for?
That's
Is that
acceptable.
reasonable?
Mm-hmm.
I do want to make it clear though, in like where it says a penalty-free, one-time penalty-free, once you can take the whole amount, or you can take a portion, but you can come back in and do another penalty-free CD, which then gives you that option again. So it's not like it's one time and that's all you can do in a year. I don't know how it works with other banks, but with us, you can come in and redo another no penalty, and so it's always going to be money that you can get at when you need it.
I don't think that's what we've been asking for. As I explained to them previously, we cannot touch principal.
I don't
You can
really
do
think,
what you want, but
I don't think we have a problem with being assessed a penalty because we understand there's paperwork in it. You're losing some funds that you were counting on. I understand that. It's expensive to do it. I understand that. I think my main issue and what I've heard from my colleagues is we can't take a penny out of the taxpayers' money to pay in fees. We just can't.
I'd rather see, and this is my opinion, I think the committee should agree on the whole, but all the rates that we're going to be given prior to Monday at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever we decide, need to be, I'm not, like you just said, the penalty-free withdrawal I'm not worried about. Just give us your best rate without touching any, principal. Just, we don't care about the penalty on the, I mean, we'll take a penalty on the interest side of it. Just give us your best rate.
Well, see, the penalties though, if it, depending on the length of the CD with most banks, if it's like a 1-year CD, it might be 3 months interest penalty, which actually can come out of the principal, Eric, if it's like within a month. Or if it's beyond that, beyond a year, then it'd be 6 months interest, so then it could actually come out of the principal as well. So, you know, that's the only issue. The only way to totally avoid that at our bank would be to be a, penalty-free CD, which then your principal is never at risk.
What term-wise are you leaning towards?
3 years.
I mean, so let's just go ahead and say 3
Well,
years.
that's where I am. I think it's extra work. I'm not interested in doing a 18-month or 12-month. This is, as long as I'm sitting in this chair, my goal is to follow what Davenport is coming here and the other people. VEMA has said we need reserves to protect you, Joe, as a citizen of this town. You know, we've got these enterprise funds that we provide electricity, water, sewer. We've got to have these funds, like Philip said. I mean, you're not interested in hearing that we're waiting on getting a loan so we can get you some electricity. So this money needs to be sitting there for emergencies, not for us to play with. So I think 36 months is reasonable.
I'd say let's,
Mr. Moncur, you in agreement with that? So we'll going forward. We got one component, okay? 36 months, okay?
$1.5 million, $2 million?
Well,
We're not gonna do the lending, it needs to be less than $2 million.
well, let's do the 1.5 million.
Yeah.
1.5 million now. Now, what happens with any extra money that you want to set in there?
Money market, do we have the appropriate amount?
Do we need to bid out a money market? Do we need to bid that out, or do we just stick it all in there? I mean,
My personal opinion is having the money market in the same place that our checking account is, simplify the process. Can I say that's fully
Transparent.
procurement compliant? I can't say that, but it certainly makes Jennifer's life a lot easier when she can move money in between accounts, very simple. With the money market account, which is gonna be less than it is now, it's almost $3 million, or right at $3 million now. And so approximately half will either go into a CD or in some other vehicle. And it just makes Jennifer's life a whole lot easier. I would leave it in the money market until such time as you have enough, because we can't continue to add to a CD.
well, I don't know. I don't know anything about banking, so any of y'all just chime in. I mean, is there any way to have a 3-year CD that is done monthly? We're paid the interest on the money monthly.
And I can't speak to the other banks here, but, to have a 3-year CD, most banks are gonna require a penalty, because then we're having to price that on a 3-year term. And so for it to be no penalty, our no penalty is gonna be an 18-month no penalty. And it's, it can be a no penalty during that entire term, but it's gonna be priced that way. I mean, we can't price a 3-year commitment and then where you can get at it at any time, because then that's like a money market. And the reason we price money markets the way we do, because that's gotta be based on short-term money.
I got
So
you.
that's,
Well, it doesn't hurt to ask. I'm no more a banker than I am a jet pilot. Okay,
but again, there
so
may be other banks that are willing to give you 3-year rate and then
I don't
make
think-
it no penalty.
I don't think this is money that we'll touch if we have a small snowstorm
No.
that knocks. This is going to be if a tornado wipes through Blackstone and
the probability
just
is
the
slim
whole
to
grid has
none.
be rebuilt.
I mean, this has got to be, this has got to be $5 million that's in there. It sits there and it's never touched. It's Nottaway County's probably got $20 million in the same fashion. It's got to be there.
If no bank, and maybe they're all the same, if no bank can guarantee you that the principal is not, or is not at risk, I leave the money market again, just leave it where it's at.
One of the
Because you
things,
can't do that, it's a bad process.
I mean, one of the things you can do though is borrow against it, and you can get a pretty
Very
preferred rate.
effective, right?
Yeah.
Well, I remember in years past, I haven't checked on it, but years past, I've done that for 1 point over what I was being paid. Is that something that we could look at?
And that can be negotiated, yes.
Well, can we include that? Is there any bankers in here going no, or is that something that we could include? Scott?
Yeah, you can put that in.
Okay.
Kind of go back to your question a minute ago, you were asking about, can the interest be paid monthly? We generally pay ours quarterly. it can be.
I don't know if I meant cured. I meant could we just do a CD? On, it was sort of a stupid question, but I've asked some stupid questions up here that led to some smart ones. Okay, so Joe kind of woke me up. I kind of got a little slap in the face there. How in the world could you do that? You're gonna, if I'm hearing you right, you're gonna take this money and you got it for 36 months and you're gonna lend it out in the community, and you can't lend it out in the community. And, next thing you know, I want my $3 million back. That makes sense. That's why I was saying, so that's what a money market's for, go month to month. And you have to pay a small rate because you don't know. You may have to scramble around and find $3 million somewhere. So I understand that now. I guess what I'm interested in is for us to make a recommendation to council and give them some, I like the 36 months. What else were we just talking about?
Go back to the $2 million being the collateral for the.
Yeah. Okay, so we'd like do $1.5 million to start with, and we'll probably add to it. Okay, that's what we'll start with because we're about $2 million away from where our work is done here now. So we'll ask for $1.5 million for 36 months, and we also want to know what can we borrow against it, the rate, what rate you're offering. Okay.
So 1.5 million CD, 36 months.
36 months.
1.5 million loan.
No, we're not borrowing any money. We're gonna recommend the council
He just wants to know if they had to borrow.
if we had a short term borrow the money. We need $400,000 for 3 months. Then we'd like the option. If you're paying 3%, then we're willing to pay you 4%. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
And not have any penalties, not have anything. In other words, I don't think it's the council's wish to ever touch that money. If we borrowed it, if we take the money out, we're gonna borrow it from ourselves. We're gonna put it back. If we have to raise taxes, put it back. But this is something that has to be done. We have to have this money in the bank. So is that
The full principal amount.
right? It has to be in there. It's not, this isn't just some pipe dream. It's just it's what corporate municipalities that are responsibly run have these reserve accounts. So that's the goal we're working towards. So I'm getting more and more comfortable with this, and it sounds more and more fair to me. Okay, so 36 months, and base your rate on a 1 point over. That's our requirement. So if you're going to give us 1%, then we can borrow the money for 2%. Okay, and then there won't be. Then we don't have to sit here and try to have a Philadelphia lawyer come in and say what's the best deal. That makes sense? Is that fair? All right. And I think I'm hoping and praying in 2 years that you've made a wise investment because it's $3 million in there. You know what I'm saying? And I'll leave the checking account and the money market. I'll leave that up to you, or we'll take it on another time. We'll take it on when we start our budget deliberations. But I understand what you're saying. I wouldn't want to have to get in the car and go over here and spend all day moving money from one bank to another, and I understand the expense of electronically doing that and all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to do that either. So you bankers are here. You've heard what we're going to ask for. Does any of you want to come to the podium and address what we've had to say? You have any questions? You feel like this is fair? Because all y'all are important. Y'all are the backbone of the community. If we don't have good local banks, community banks, then we're not going to succeed. So I think maybe sometimes we got out ahead of ourselves, and I think I'll take the blame for it. I don't think we were crystal clear that we were going to remove a big chunk of money away from Citizens Bank and turn around and give it to somebody else that didn't have a relationship. But the procurement policies that we have and what we're mandated to do because we're a corporate municipality and not an S-chapter corporation, our personal relationship has no value with the taxpayer. Although I greatly appreciate it. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does.
Gentlemen, anybody have anything else? So can you get that out to these gentlemen today, the proposal? And
Is there anybody not here? Which are all banks represented that we've received?
as far as I know. Right. Sam?
I'm good.
Parliamentary wise, what do we need? Do we need to have a motion for us to do anything, or we can just do this by common consent?
I'll make a recommendation.
Yeah.
So the instructions to me are to get this done, and we'll have it by 2 o'clock on
Is
Monday.
it-
And
Everybody's interested?
we'll be here 3:30 to meet.
3:30 will
And
be.
then that, does that give you ample time to give us a spreadsheet and for us to, when we come in
It
here?
should be
we-
pretty cut and dry this time.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. So, would y'all please, each one of you make sure that, finance director has a cell phone she can get to you in case we've forgotten something, and, make sure you got her number. And I'm accessible, I'll be accessible between now and, I'm not traveling anywhere, I'll be here. But you gonna be around? Yeah, all right. Any other business you have?
Yeah, we've got a couple of things.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about Leo's Monday, right?
You gonna meet at 3:30,
Well, Sam needs to digest it. I mean,
I did not get in time enough to read.
We'll
what was
talk about it
on.
Monday.
yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, I would like to voice my opinion. I want to. We made this pledge. I think we got to figure out a way to do it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm perfectly willing after this meeting to sit down with you or anybody else and go over this Leo thing to where I can get up to speed on it. pretty
Okay.
fast. So,
Well, I'd like to make a recommendation, council, that night. So if you don't mind meeting at 3:30, we'll settle it. We'll have these bids. We can give council, and we'll have a recommendation for. We'll have a recommendation on Leo's. If you want to talk about it any, I'm glad to talk about it.
Thank you for being here.
Thank y'all. Thank every one of y'all for coming. Some of you
If it weren't
traveled
for
great
local
distance.
bankers, we'd be in trouble.
I do want to leave the chief. I think you, if you will, personally, give the chief your opinion on us funding this. My Chief Kuzmiak,
Yes, sir.
would you come up forward, please?
Absolutely.
I'm 1/7 of this council. I'm 1/3 of this committee. But I just think we ought to leave you where we stand in our hearts. And I've told you many times, there's been times that y'all have been the low-hanging fruit. And that's not gonna be this vote at this chair. I get one vote. So you're not gonna be low-hanging fruit. I'm gonna do everything I can to convince council to make this investment, to give your men this program. Mr. Nash, you have
I
any
agree. I
comments?
mean, it's a thing that needs to be done if it truly is a recruitment and, number one, retention tool for the officers. And I believe it is. I mean, I've talked to plenty of them, and I think it is a big retention tool. So,
Yeah, you know, I've always been open with council and always offered, you know, a handout. If you ever have any questions, you don't have to always rely on what I tell you. If you want to ask the officers what they think, what they feel, you know, they're going to give you a straight, honest answer from, you know, what they believe, what they see, and what it really means to them. You know, there's a lot of competition around us. You know, the sheriff's department pays more than we do. The state police pays a lot more than we do now. They had a major change within the last year. We just can't compete with that. So, you know, the more we can do locally. for the
But on the other hand, I don't mean to cut you off. Thank God you might not end up in Wise County, okay? You know what I'm saying? You go to State Police Academy, you end up in Wise County. You know, you don't get your battle station, choice of compared to beautiful Mayberry here.
Well,
I'm sorry, Chief. I had to throw that in.
Well, that's okay.
You know.
Because, you know, they've lost so many people that the troopers have had a chance to pick and choose where they want to go. They've raised their starting salary, they've raised their service years. If you've got 3 years, how much you'll make, they've increased that a lot, reduced their academy time. So all around us, even the sheriff has found it real difficult to try to recruit officers and deputies and keep them. And so it is definitely a recruiting tool and hopefully a retention tool that helps us. None of us really want to go through the act of hiring and then training and then rehiring, and it's expensive, it's time consuming.
very time consuming.
Yeah.
I don't think you want another summer like you had either. No, I don't know how you boys did it. I mean, honestly. Well, and while I'm letting Mr. Moncure speak here in a minute, the photo of Shay and our canine was incredible. That's a very good accomplishment. I'm pretty proud of it. We pushed for that.
Well, I wanted to make sure you saw my, Shay doesn't get to see you as much as I do. So
Right.
I wanted you as a council and the town manager to know that Shay deeply appreciates the opportunity that all of you have afforded to him.
Well, I think it's a great program too. I think it'll help us in a lot of ways, and it's good for morale. It's good for everything. I just don't see the negative part of it. But Mr. Moncure, do you have any thoughts to share with the chief?
No, not at this time. I'm very much in favor of Leo's if we can find a way to work it in and fund it. I don't think we really have a choice. I think we have to find a way to work it in and fund it, because I think it is a necessity.
Quite frankly, it should have been done several years ago.
Well,
But we couldn't afford it at the time, but ultimately, as we've been able to do it.
I don't see
we
any
can bring it
problem
back
with
to-
it. It's kind of like the ball keeps moving on you. You don't, it's kind of hard to say, this is this, because it moves. It's a moving target.
And we certainly didn't see
And
it.
it certainly changes with the age and the people you got. That keeps confused too. And again, I did say something that I thoroughly agree with. If it comes down to a point that we have to raise taxes in order to fit this in, if that's the only place left to find the money, then you've got 1/3 of this vote already. Now, I certainly don't want to do that. There's other ways to do. We can drop magazine subscriptions and stuff, I mean, completely. And if the money will make the difference in that. We do a lot of things that, geared to the public relations, that are not as valuable, in my opinion, as our relationship with ours.
Is that a set in stone figure? Because if you read the letter, it
Great
says
question.
6 of these employees were not active in the 2016 valuation, but were included in the study based on the study data provided by VRS. So, to me, it sounds like it could be lower. Because, I mean, it shows, and the next table is where I'm confused. On page 2 of it, it shows that we have, and I don't know if, is this us, 55 total active members? That includes Plan 1 general members, Plan 2 general members. I just would like clarity on to what it actually, is it,
I don't know that.
it may be inflated.
If somebody can, if there is.
Can we ask something prior to Monday possibly and clarify the letter and explain this table? Because when it said that it had 6 additional employees that were not active, to me it seems like it may be inflated. That they were doing that because we may be hiring 6 more to replace those, I don't know.
But one thing we do need to remember, when we shake hands and say we're gonna do this, we're gonna do
I
it,
agree.
and the cost of it's gonna go up.
True.
It's
yes.
gonna go up. You're not gonna pay this price every year in perpetuity. It's gonna go up. And we gotta keep that in mind.
But I mean, I'm hoping that, let's start at a lower point, is what I'm saying.
I'd like to see us do it strictly because, you know, we eliminated the dispatching, and I think general fund got quite a big chunk of that. So, you know, we eliminated dispatching. I think we owe it to them. You know, does that make any sense? That's where the money's coming from. And we wouldn't be able to talk about it if you still had dispatching without a significant tax raise. Is that correct, Philip?
Oh, we're doing it. I think the county ultimately, and I think the county again is gonna come for additional money. I don't wanna say you'd have to increase the rates, but if you didn't increase rates, you'd have to prioritize something out, certainly, and you'd have to cut something and do something different, and, there's gonna be winners and losers. And, someone's gonna be a loser and someone's gonna be a winner, for sure. There is a finite amount of money. Do we make more? Much ballyhooed that our meals tax went up. Well, that didn't change the operations of the town. If we have additional revenues, we just finished a 40-minute discussion about reserve, that's where it goes.
We're getting ready to get some additional revenues from all the tax assessments that went up a decent amount. So I mean, and that's,
But remember, our taxes are really a small portion. of
Correct,
what we
but I
do.
mean-
Real estate.
it could make up your $20,000 is what I'm
I know,
saying.
$20,000.
I mean, it could make up your $20,000.
Yeah, man, that's sad. That's
I know.
that's
It is.
that's 15 minutes with an engineer. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
But it's sad, but it's beautiful too, that our average citizen is not burdened with that heavy tax.
Yeah.
well,
I mean, I can tell you, my tax assessment for my house went up $50,000 this year, just randomly. So
I lived in the garment industry for 35, 40 years, and I've lived all over. And I have never in my life experienced tax rates as reasonable as we have in Blackstone across the board.
well, you know, one thing I think we didn't get a chance to talk to you about it, but Philip and I shared, and then Mr. Nash came in right before the meeting. We said, why don't we pay us like you suggested in the past? That's the reason why I really didn't feel like we need to discuss about it, because you've made the statement you'd like to see us borrow from ourselves and pay it back.
That's right.
You know, maybe we should do that, and we should designate this interest that we're going to pay ourselves towards something.
Well, I don't think we should borrow for ourselves unless we do integrate an interest rate in it.
That's what I'm talking about. But I'm saying, you know, if it's 3% that we're saving, okay, and that's $25,000, $30,000
Then that ought to be
a
a
year,
growth factor.
sir.
If 3% is the commercial rate,
Right.
it ought to be a growth factor in what we do, in what we lend ourselves.
Well, we'll get into that later.
I just think if we're going to talk about, I mean, we've got 45 in the budget already. We found it, and it's there every year for now. I don't think it's going to be that hard to find another 20. I mean, I really don't think, like I said,
Generate a tax increase.
no, especially once we started to talk, I mean, well, the tax increase has already happened on the county side, that it just follows down to us.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that you're right. That's
You're going to get a tax increase, not from the,
that we didn't do.
Correct.
That's the only one we get.
Yeah.
That's the only time we get a revenue that we're not bad guys.
correct.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to
Well,
have.
you're going by yourself. I almost had a coronary too when I got mine. Trust me. So.
But I think if you can clarify those numbers, whether it's Philip or you, Chief, about what they're explaining, because to me, it's kind of confusing.
What's your schedule Monday? Do you know?
I won't be here, Mr. Green, Monday.
Right.
Sorry.
If you could give us some whatever background you can, send one of your sergeants or Miss Jackson or somebody and give us an
Because
update.
obviously these are consultants, and that's consultant language.
Yeah,
To me,
yeah,
I don't
way
understand it.
above my head.
Yeah, I don't understand it, so,
As I like to call it, it's tough reading.
yeah.
All right. Anything else, Philip?
I don't think so. Get cigarettes and Leos, and then we covered what was on the agenda.
We're having a public hearing on the bad check. What else we got going on?
For the council meeting Monday night,
Uh-huh.
intentionally late agenda, you got bad check policy, you've got an electric extension policy. Something else I don't remember, got approved bids that we opened today for paving, for next year. Not a lot, I mean, if that's not an hour-long agenda, I don't know what.
I held my meals tax workshop Wednesday. 0 participation
Zero?
from any restaurant.
Well, I'm sorry, but on the other hand, that's a good case of covering your bases. If you have someone to cry,
We've given the opportunity for them to
And
learn, and
there's a lot of good information that I had a Virginia State auditor there to.
well, I hope you may have gotten
I
some
did.
learning
I did.
aids.
And I've got some packets to hand out, but. you
does
know,
that give you any indigestion to make that known to the council Monday night? That you duly advertised and held a symposium and no one showed up? Do you mind reporting that?
Would be,
I would be glad to.
Good.
part of the minutes for this committee.
Yep. Would you, put it in there.
That is kind of baffling, actually,
Maybe
especially
there's
with
another
the
item that you-
unknown that everybody had on this past audit.
Well, not just that, the feedback that when I was at, well, we just didn't know, the town never gave us the proper documentation, so here, well, I mean, I have.
Well, I'm still baffled as when I brought it up and said, let's get everybody in here and talk, you know, it was like I wanted to beat them with a stick. I mean, that was,
It was just purely informational.
one of the,
to
you
help.
know, I'm in a weird situation. I deal with Virginia Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. You know, I don't deal with, so it's a board of directors that govern my profession. And the neat thing is, you call and you can have an investigator, auditor, or a representative there the next day, and they come in the door looking for something right. You know, they're not like when OSHA comes, you might as well get your checkbook out because you know you're gonna find something wrong with a brand new building. But so that's what I had in mind. You know, I know the government gets a bad shake, but these people that govern automobile dealers, they're awesome. You know, and we always have the information. And we do about a 90-minute course online every year, and you got, you know, it's an instructor with 4 of us linked up that we can chat, and I mean, so that's what that was my thought. It wasn't attack the restaurants and say you're a bunch of rascals. No, I wanted them to feel like I do about the people that govern me. You know, so
It was all, I had a PowerPoint, I had an information packet, the right documentation for tax exempt sales, a lot more into military sales, and that's where I got the.
well, if this
Virginia
gets
tax
out,
auditor came to be a resource as well.
you have the information that if someone came and wanted to get the information, it wouldn't be a hardship to you to provide it.
No problem. I was gonna mail them.
Okay,
Have
well, that was my
them sign
second
for it.
question. At what expense would it be to send them this? I mean, we're collecting $700,000 in meals tax. If it costs $500, yes, sir.
And we need to keep one thing in mind, and Philip brought this up to me, and we talked about it just briefly in passing. This meals tax thing, while it's been a cash cow all period, may be at a point of diminishing returns. And what I'm trying to say is, the talk of Gate City out there and the hotels and motels has died down. I don't see any fervent activity out there. And at the same time, the construction, which I think contributes a whole lot to what increase we've seen in meals tax, is gonna be diminishing as it goes on. They're gonna get this phase finished and this phase finished. Now, it's not gonna disappear, but it's not gonna be a growth thing. It's gonna level off. If anything, it might drop.
Well, great minds think alike, because I was going to ask you to be very careful when we start the budget. You know, with your revenue side of it, because I mean, Mortensen's got, what's your guess? 500 employees out there working.
I can tell you, your meals tax is gonna tick back down.
Yeah.
I had a pretty extensive meeting with the Fast Seed folks, and we talked about it, and we're seeing, and the audit was correct, and we're seeing it, but there's not a hotel currently in any phase of development that I've been privy to.
They have begun clearing the land out there, so that is a step.
That may be the case. I don't know anything that will be prepared in time. That may be the case. The county may know. Mr. Gomez may have a grand plan. I just don't know.
You need to prepare in time for this year's budget, is what you're saying? Prepared for what, this year's
I
budget?
think it's.
Well, I just don't. What I'm saying is, I don't want us to amp up our revenues. You
Well,
know?
for instance,
And
we're
we've never
doing it already in this Leo. We know this is not a one-time thing.
Right.
It's every year.
Correct.
So if we figured that an increase in meals tax will take care of it this year,
Right.
it may not be there next
No,
year.
I don't want.
I think your meals tax beyond the budgeted figure is a reserve item. I think you need to save it. I don't think you need to spend it. It may be a one-time buy some police cars. You could buy a ladder truck. You could do things, but I would not save it. What I was getting to is that the lack of a hotel or a significant hospitality provider. Speaking with Fast C, those folks are going to be living in Chesterfield if something doesn't radically change. And even if it does radically change, there's not a guarantee that Fast C will use those units. I think that the majority of those folks are not going to be eating in Blackstone or sleeping in Blackstone unless a dramatic change takes place. And unfortunately, I think that's the circumstance. I think Abby Lowe said it. If you build it, they will come. I think in this instant, if you build it, they might come. And
But don't downplay it. I mean, we'll still see a benefit.
Oh, sure.
From the whole project,
Oh, yeah.
we'll still see
Oh, yeah.
benefit, and it's
But
a,
the
Traffic is
growth
traffic.
Not what you're gonna see is what I'm getting at.
correct.
It's a growth, we've been sitting here for 2 or 3 years now, talking about the big Messiah coming and this growth, going just like this. Well, it's not gonna go like that.
Well, I would hate to be one of the restaurant owners, and because you could, I mean, at any given night, you go to restaurant A, you can't get in there, or there's nobody in there. You know, I don't know how you plan for it. You know, with perishable foods, I mean, I've seen it. I've seen some nights that look like, you know, Friday night. Everybody knows Friday night. Everybody likes to go out. But I've seen some Monday and Tuesday nights like that. And how do you plan for that? You know, so,
I do have one other topic that I'd like to broach, and it may not be the correct committee, but I think some of the members of the Building and Grounds and Cemetery Committee, now that I'm involved on a full-time effort in understanding the cemetery, understanding how the cemetery works, I want to give you guys plenty of lead time. But the finances of the cemetery, we may have talked about this some, and we've heard much about death taxes recently in the paper. The cemetery and the cemetery fund are in the red every year, okay? We may know that. The cemetery is not paying for itself, okay?
there's no mathematical formula that you can come up that it will.
Unless just radically higher
Well, you know,
burial fees and all those kinds of things.
Because you run out of inventory.
But I think we're going to have to start showing transfers to the cemetery, because we don't show a transfer to the cemetery. And I think there's just going to have to be more of a genuine effort if we ever want to do any capital improvements there, pave roads, if we ever want to do any of those kinds of things. I think there's going to have to be a genuine effort in the budget this coming year to take general fund money and ultimately forward that into the cemetery fund.
well, why wouldn't you do it? I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, you know, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's a duck.
It's probably the only fund we have that it is operating completely in the red.
Now, Mr. Hamner and a couple of other of our members have made wonderful points. You know, that we have a lot of people visit there and then they end up downtown shopping and eating.
Great.
You know, but you know, it's sort of like that wastewater treatment plant. You know, we should never got into it.
I don't know if there's one of those things the town can say, well, we're going to reduce our efforts there.
I mean, could it ever be privatized? I mean,
I would love it.
if it was privatized, how would they make their money?
That's right.
They wouldn't, and
I don't know. I don't know if it's a profit
I
maker.
bought 4 lots over there, and they're mine, and I didn't sign on for you to send me $100 a month bill to keep the grass cut. You know, so how you gonna do that? Yes.
How do cemeteries make, I wouldn't say
They
they
don't.
make money, but I
They
mean,
don't.
and I guarantee you, there's cemeteries that
Well, they have
they're not
they
operating in
have
the red.
Well, see, perpetual care is a term that.
What is the purpose of that? I mean, it's
Well,
$200,000 for
Well,
what?
that's an insurance policy. If we go out of business, the state comes in, they've got the money to.
Or somebody comes in and that they'll be, but what I did,
People assume perpetual care means cutting the grass. That's what it sounds like.
It sounds like it.
It's
Correct.
exactly what it sounds like.
fixing headstones and cutting grass.
But that's not it. No, general fund's paying for that. General fund's paying for that.
General fund is paying the majority of the cost out there at the cemetery by far.
We looked into being able to change the percentage.
We changed it to the minimum.
Well,
did.
yeah, we've cut the
25%.
perpetual care down to 10%, so $390 goes in operating and, oh, excuse me, $360 and $40.
I was baffled that we were putting half of it or whatever it was. It was a huge number we were sticking in the perpetual care.
And the purpose of the $100 burial fee, okay, is that everybody shares in that. The people that paid $10 for a grave, 100 years ago, and the guy that just bought the new graves. There's been some discussion, should we raise the rate of the graves? Finding graves, 10 times harder in the old section than it is in the new section, because the pins aren't there, and so the new section is much easier to do a burial in.
I have a 16 plot, whatever, out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I pass away, I mean, of course, it's been paid for.
Mm-hmm.
But each one
It's $100.
when I pass away is $100.
I think the earned cost is $200, if I'm not mistaken. So there's an additional burial fee. So somebody in the 1880s
You will see more money off of lots that are already purchased but
Right.
not used.
purchased and not used. Yeah,
But even that,
it's still not
Oh, I
going to
know,
do it.
but
I would think, my best guess is a death tax needs to be about $3,000 a plot.
We're gonna have to sit down and figure that rascal out, because we're taking about $15,000 a year out of the cemetery fund and putting it into the general fund to help pay Winston. I was sitting out there watching the guys rake leaves the other day. There's 3 or 4 of them, and plus the leaf crew.
Each year to cut the grass and get the leaves up there, whatever.
I'd say it's $100,000.
That was my number.
Just Winston alone. And Winston's not making a king's ransom, but if you just take him alone and put the benefits on there, it's probably $50,000 just one person.
Plus equipment. I know you know what that costs.
I think that's going to be a goal of the budget, is try to decipher that and decode it.
How much in the red are there each year?
$85,000 probably. Because we don't have an expenditure. Remember, the cemetery doesn't have an operations budget. It is small. You know, if I need to buy a lawnmower, there may be a CO figure in there. I think we got $16,000 to buy some signs in there this year. That's the cemetery budget. Otherwise, it just falls within the street department. Winston's paid out of the street department. The leaf guys are paid out of the street department. What we need to do is create, like we did with the airport, we need to create a series of expenditures strictly to the cemetery, and then we have to
I was
lose the
just
difference
thinking,
out.
I mean, disclosure, I wouldn't bid on it because I would never want to deal with it, but I was thinking, I mean, you could probably, I mean, you wouldn't be able to save $85,000, obviously.
If we're using 100 as the true expenditure of the cemetery, I think we're taking 15 from the cemetery fund reimbursement.
I'm not so sure that now wouldn't be a proper time to set up a separate budget item for the cemetery, just like you do for
Airport.
the bus shop and this and that and the other. So at some point in time that you can track this accurately and people can go back and see.
Well, that's been my goal. You know that. I wanted everything segregated.
Got it.
So why don't
But
you?
you're going to either have to come up with a whole lot more revenue, or you're going to have to start actually showing a transfer.
Well, we
into the
need to.
cemetery.
Well, you need to.
There's a cemetery fund. We have it broken out like we do the airport. But like he said,
You don't take your labor out of it.
where I don't take our salaries and.
Let alone
that is not hidden.
any P&E you do at the airport.
That's not
None of that. None of your salary or.
I mean, if I had to take a wild stab at it, you're probably going to get, I mean, this is a completely just off the wall figure. You'd probably have to pay a company to go in there and maintain that place $50,000-$60,000 a year.
You're a grass cutter, you know.
I mean, I wouldn't do it. I would
Well-
never come close to
A
it.
lot of liability, busting
Oh, yeah.
headstones.
I want you to imagine something. Visualize that we've sold this to a private company for nothing or a lot. And all the grave sites are sold.
And they get nothing.
What are they gonna do? So there is no future.
No.
There is no future in the cemetery.
That and the 4 picket water lines are a bottomless pit. Okay? And it's just, hey, it comes with territory. You just got to accept it.
Well,
Can't do anything about it now.
You almost gotta perpetuate yourself. You've gotta find and bury more people to pay.
that's right. But when you run out of inventory to sell,
Well, there's some options.
even though
to
you've
increase
raised your
inventory.
prices.
Yeah, somebody suggested to me we should put a mausoleum in. Very cheap, very expensive to do burials and things, but I'm
Like
not a
they do in New
cemetery
Orleans,
owner.
it's like
Well,
Push
that,
them
there's
all
some
back.
more land you can get that you and I
There is
discussed.
more land.
Yeah. Now's a great time to
Yeah.
get it.
You could be right.
I know I'm right. Now's a good time.
So, that needs to be a focus, because the more time I spend on locating graves and doing stuff, I mean, it's a nice thing the town does, we don't get that part. But if you're gonna make that fund self-sufficient,
Yeah.
the current model ain't the way to do it.
No. All right.
All right.
Are we done? Are we adjourned?
We're adjourned at 4:12.
Monday, 3:30.
Well, whatever you want.
Is it continued to Monday or?
Continue till Monday.
Continue the money. You don't have to advertise, right?
Don't have to advertise, don't have to have a call, you continue.
Yep. We'll continue. All right.
We will send out a